Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Vault episode part 12. Today is going to be all about the deep dive into the phone data, and get your pens and papers out because it's going to be a lot and it's going to be detailed. Of course, I have my good friend Quester here with me. Hello, Quester.
Hello, Amy. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone in chat. We have a lot of new members joining the channel. Free Ricky, Nellie Lane, Debbie Olds, welcome. We just did a 4-hour members only last night, so if you haven't had a chance to watch that, go check that out. Welcome, everybody. We have a lot to get into today, so I won't go name by name. Welcome, mods. Welcome, friends. Yeah, I'm not going to go name by name because we have a lot to get into today. And first order of business is I want to make this very clear. The information that we're going to go over today about the phone, you have to understand that we are limited in information based on what was available at trial and exhibits that we have yet to get our hands on. But there are other reports out there that's been acquired, and this is going to be the first part of diving into the data as we see it, and we can articulate it into the movements and the speed. However, if you disagree, that's fine. We are willing, we're not putting anything carved in stone. What we're doing is this is an open discussion about the closest that we feel we can get with the information that we have to accuracy of the movement of the phone. And I also want to emphasize the movement of the phone. We cannot attach the phone to the girls per se because we don't know if the phone was taken from them. So this is about the movement of the phone and what the data so far that we have shows, and we're going to try to be as accurate as possible. But if we have to go back later on and make adjustments, we'll address those as we go. Quester, do you have any input on that or insight that you'd like to add before we dive in?
Not really. You're quite right that we should remember this is about the phone, not about the girls. Until we can categorically 100% say the girls held that phone right the way through, we have to refer to it as the phone. Apart from that, let's get stuck in.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. Quester, I'm going to pull up the information about where the phone data that we're working off of, where it came from, and I'm going to let you discuss that really quick. I need to step away. I need to run out the back door really quick. My parrot's outside, and it just started to pour down rain, so I need to grab him really quick. So I'm going to pull this up, and I'm going to let you discuss, just kind of briefly go over, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay, the document's on. I'll let you take it over from here for just a moment.
Right, I don't know if everyone can see it because it's quite small on the screen. It might just be my screen. But as it says, it's a review of data extractions and reports from the cell phone that was conducted by Eldridge, the FBI forensic examiner, and a whole host of different programs that were used. Celebrite, Magnet, Axiom, Grainy, Castviz, Apple Health Data, iCloud Data, Knowledge C database, and AT&T Tower Pings, and geolocation data from Google. So it's quite a lot of things that we've cast our net out to grab. We've also used the Blocher report, the Bunner case reports, and the Eldridge reports. So there's an awful lot of information that we have delved into. It's taken quite a while to do this, but we've come up with a basic scenario within it, we've had to avoid where they contradict each other and try to rebuild that ourselves. So as Amy was saying earlier, we sort of know there's going to be parts in there which are open to debate. But until we get further information, we've got to leave it there. And hopefully, if some of you find the answers, by all means, tell us it, and we can look in deeper. But until then, we've got to go with what we've got, as all of you have to. Now, one thing we would point out is the police said that Libby's smartphone did not have her positioning and find me activated. Well, that's not true. She did. In fact, Verizon have a default set switch to on. Unless you physically go in and turn it off, it will be there no matter what. Check your own phone. If you're on Verizon, you'll find it. So, and we've also found information that has been fed through the GPS software, which again proves it was on. So this is another thing that contradicts the family, who also said that her iPhone, Find My Phone, was not enabled. It was. Are you back, Amy?
I am back. I'm wet, but I'm back.
Right.
Okay.
But do you want to carry on? I haven't gone into it in depth. I've just explained where we've got the information from.
Okay, good. Let me see. Let me pull this down. Guys in the chat, there's a poll that I posted at the top of the chat. So we're going to go over a couple of things here really quick before we actually get into the data that I want to talk about before we actually talk about the phone data, because it's important. So this PowerPoint is a very small one because we have so much data to go over in different documents actually. But this episode is about the phone data and the Apple Health data. And I included, this will be available in my Facebook group. Once again, to remind everybody that there were numerous amount of phones and electronics that were found around Delphi that they, for whatever reason, associated with this case. And I just always want to keep that prevalent with everybody when we're talking about the phone, because we know what we're being told about the phone was Libby's. I am a firm believer, as I believe Quester is as well, that there's a second phone.
Amy?
Now, yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Just butt in a moment. On your chat, David said, early on, I thought Becky said Libby was borrowing her phone that day. Well, David, yes, you're right. She did say that. In fact, Becky has said that she had quite a few spare phones, which she used to allow the family to use. So, yes, David, you're right. Sorry, Amy, off you go.
Not only that, but if you go back and you watch some of their interviews, and I don't know if Becky, look, I think there's a lot to be said when you are analyzing somebody over the course of years, verbatim, for word. It's one thing to speak in random terms, but I know that the one interview that I had, we'd gone over this before, where her and Mike Patty are sitting on the patio, and she's talking about her trying to get a hold of Libby after Derek calls, and she's looking at Mike, and she says, well, and she wasn't answering your phone. So there was another instance where she claimed that Libby had a phone that wasn't necessarily hers. So I agree that I personally believe that they were allowing Abby to use a phone, or at least Libby was allowing Abby to carry a phone.
The problem with that is I believe that they were all on the same account of Becky's, the same business account,
Mm-hmm.
which sort of links them together.
It does.
Each
It
one
does.
would be able to access each other and each other's accounts.
Keith asked, was Abby very absent from her immediate family and practically living with the Libby's family? I don't know. You know what? I don't believe so. I think that Abby was very close with her family. Teenage girls they tend to be like that. Like, you know, I have a stepdaughter. She's not a teenager yet. She's my daughter, not just stepdaughter, but she's like my daughter. She's 11, and she has a little girlfriend across the street, and these two are inseparable. Every minute of every day, they are together, and they just never get tired of each other. So I think it's just a teenage girl thing. So I do know that Abby went on vacation with the Patties to Florida. And I was told by someone with the family that Anna and Becky had never met face to face until the day the girls went missing, which I found very strange. But it would explain why Anna did not even have Becky's phone number saved in her phone. So when Becky was calling, Anna didn't answer because she didn't recognize the number. So I think that Abby Abby was with Libby a lot, and but I don't think that means that she didn't have a great home life or was not close with her family. I just think that's how it goes, especially if her mother worked nights.
Well, her mother had a couple of jobs, so
right.
Being the only breadwinner, it's a bit hard for a woman to bring up a teenage child.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to give a little bit of leeway for the woman. She's going to be out working every hour that God sends, and obviously Abby is going to try and find things to do. She's a teenage girl.
Yeah. And I think Anna, Anna never has struck me publicly or even privately as a, careless mom at all. I mean, I think the fact that she was trying to hold out, which I think as a parent is with my oldest daughter, I went through the same thing. She was one of the last ones in her friend group to get a phone. When she got the phone, mom had to have full access to everything. And by the time my youngest daughter was born, even to this day, my oldest wants to, kind of throw it in my face like, Mom, you were so strict with me. So as a mother, you learn to pick and choose your battles. But I think that Anna was really working hard to try to keep Abby on the straight and narrow and not by allowing her to have a phone. But when I say pick and choose your battles, that's when you run into situations where a teenager will then go behind your back and lie. So sometimes it's better to set the ground rules and release the straps just a little bit, so you don't get into that position that maybe Anna found herself in with Abby.
Didn't she have a family member living at the house as well? Another family member?
I thought it was Abby's grandfather.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me see here. Okay, before we go on, I want to address something that we discussed last week. I also want to thank Rafi publicly for creating that little video. When I seen this photo with the Cheyenne stuff, I didn't know for sure, but we put it with the Cheyenne photos, but this 153 photo out there on the trails is not a photo that Cheyenne took. It's actually a photo that was taken with this group of people over here on the left. And I know that there's a whole Jackson Files video thread about this group of people. And they're insinuating that they were on the trails that day. Actually, They're claiming that they were there early in the morning throughout the afternoon. I see the photos, but I cannot find photos that have a timestamp and a date. So I just wanted to correct that error about this photo. We know who these people are, and we do know that the young girl in the photo was a friend of Abby's, but I wanted to address that, and I'm not going to go into any more of that. I've been sent a bunch of stuff about this group of people, and unless we have something concrete, if these people were out there, this large group of people, we have never heard anybody discuss them, and we just can't prove that they are a part of the timeline of the 13th. Now, if they are, and there's somebody out there who has factual proof, send it. But I can't take pieces and parts and piecemeal them together and claim that these photos were taken on the 13th, because I just don't have verification of that. The next thing going forward is this photo right here. Actually, there's a couple of them. So the two photos on the left were still shots taken from the slow motion video of Abby walking on the bridge that was created to see the shadows in the background. However, it also was a great screenshot of capturing what I personally believe to be a phone in Abby's pocket. So much so that I went out on the patio in the daylight and had my husband take a picture of me with my phone in my pocket. And I simply just held my jacket out to the side. And you can see it's a very similar indentation in the jacket. And this is kind of a little bit of a different angle. And that's just with the phone laying loose in my pocket on this far right-hand side. And you can see the square corners of what appears to be a phone in Abby's pocket. So that is the poll question today in chat. Do you believe that Abby had a phone? 3 options: possibly, 100%, and a factual no. So I know Quester questioned it too. He said he didn't know if the phone would be that heavy to leave that indentation. And I believe it does.
Thinking about it, if you did have a phone in your pocket and you were not really au fait with the bridge, it would be natural to put your hand in the pocket to hold onto that phone.
Mm-hmm.
So that would explain her having a hand in the pockets when she's crossing the bridge.
Right. So now there's a couple of videos that I'm gonna play before we go into the phone data. It's just going to give you a better visual about the first optional clear path before you get to the bridge on the north end, and how that path can take you around to the cemetery or down to the crime scene, because we're going to go over those paths today. Let me see here. And this is Julie Melvin discussing the path.
There were 2 paths. There's a path across the bridge, down the hill, and to the edge of the creek. And it's a worn path. It's a path that if you're looking for someone, you know they're at the end of the bridge, you're going to walk the worn path first. You're not going to go off the beaten path, right?
Yeah, because
then you go the only other path that there is. Yeah. That's right before you cross the bridge, which this path is known, and it goes down to the cemetery. And I can tell you, back in 2017, yeah, 2 paths. And if you're searching this area, this is where you're going to walk. So even if you didn't think they got over here, on their own accord, you're at least going to start following the path and see where it ends up.
Sure.
And it's going to end up directly across from the path that's by the bridge. That's when you don't even know that he's told them to go down the hill.
Yeah.
You're just going to follow the path down the bridge.
Right.
That's the only other place you go out the end.
It's about access too. You're
right across.
And look, when you're looking, you don't have a sling blade and gasoline weed eaters.
He was on them at 2:13. So the girls were down here taking the picture, took the picture at 2:07.
Right.
He was on them at 2:13. I've been able to get the entire way across in 5 minutes.
Right.
So it could be as simple as they took the picture, Libby took the picture of Abby,
Yeah.
and then, you know,
God, the timing
he's
would have had to have
hanging
been-
here,
yeah.
and he comes, and he's on him. Yep, he waited for that. He was out of the photo when that happened.
God, that's incredible.
So what Julie's talking about here is, let me see. She's talking about this path right here. The first video that I played was them. That video was taken up in here in this tree line area where she's pointing out that if you follow this path all the way around, it takes you over to the cemetery or down. You can go downwards into the ravine down to where the crime scene was. And if you follow that path, what she was describing was that if the girls went down to the south end of the bridge and went down the hill and crossed the creek, you would pretty much, if you followed this path down into the ravine to the crime scene and you came out to the water's edge, you would pretty much be down there by the creek where the girls would have possibly crossed. But this is what the path looked like before. This was after they had cleared out all of the trees and they had blacktopped the path. This was obviously before they renovated the first section of the bridge. But this kind of gives you the visual. And she was saying that possibly the man who was bridge guy could have been hiding up here in this wooded area because he could have popped out right behind the girls. That would be a whole nother experiment, I would think, because crossing the bridge in 5 minutes, that's a really quick amount of time. And we know that at 2:07 there was, if that photo of Libby on the bridge is accurate and it's real, there was no one behind Abby. There was no one in the background coming. So he would have had to have been trucking it to get to them by 2:13. That's 6 minutes. Okay, are you ready to get into this?
I'm ready.
Okay. Let me find the first one. Now, guys, this is going to be a lot of talking and a lot of reading. So I'm going to let Quester discuss the documents and I'm going to chime in, but we will take breaks intermittently and answer questions. Hopefully this is going to be large enough to be able to be read. Can you read that?
Well, on my screen it's too small, but can anyone else read it?
Hold on a second. Let me see. I can try. Hold on.
I can zoom in.
Wait a second here. I want them to be able to read along with us. I knew StreamYard makes it so difficult with the sizing of things. Let me see here. I might have to share my screen and see if I can make it bigger. Give me 1 second, guys. As much as you try to be prepared, it's always, technology doesn't always work on your side. Okay. All right, one more time here. Okay, it's not letting me do it that way. Let me see. Hold on.
While you're doing that, just respond to All Eyes. Hi there, All Eyes. Yes, if Abby was using one of Libby's old devices, I would think she would have used her own accounts to log into apps on it. Yes, she could, but you can also piggyback off another person's phone to do that. When you do that, as far as the tower is concerned, it's the other person's phone that's doing it. Young teenagers would probably be able to tell you better than I how to do that. It's quite a common thing for them.
Trying to get this into a way that I can expand it here.
Yes, as Keith says, she could have hotspotted off Libby's device. She could indeed.
Okay, let me see one more time here.
Tom Stutz asks, could you hotspot in 2017? I believe so, but also you've got to bear in mind that these phones could possibly have been all on the same account, as it were, because they were all Becky's. Therefore, they would all be fairly linked together anyway. So providing their own, so to speak, hotspot.
Okay, so it's not going to let me share it the way that I want to. So we are going to have to go off of this one. And hopefully you guys on your phones can zoom in on the screen. Quester, do you, if you want to, you can, if you want to pull it up on your device and just read it off of the regular document so you can read it. I was worried about this doing that to me.
And in response to All Eyes, it's hard to know if there's an absence of Abby's data. There is an absence. They did ask for the data and they identified the accounts, but nothing has ever been revealed as to what came out of it. So it's
Okay,
a good
wait
point.
a minute. Can you see this?
I can see it fine.
Is it sharing? Is it much larger?
It's coming over larger.
Okay, good. Okay, so wait a minute. Crap. That's not the right one. So let me open up the other one.
Starting with the post after 214, aren't we?
Right, yeah, we're going to start earlier on.
You want to start earlier on?
Okay. Okay, here's the first one. This better work. Well, why? I don't understand. It's not, it opened the, it opened the first one. So did we, okay, does it starts at 214, correct?
Yeah, the first one starts at 214, yes.
Okay.
We'll explain why in a minute, folks.
Okay, is that large?
It's good for me, is it? How's it for everyone else?
I can't see chat, so.
Just some people are saying it's okay.
If I make it any bigger, is that better?
Well, nobody's saying they can't see it now.
Okay, well, let's roll with it then.
Right, you want me to kick off?
Yep, go ahead.
Right. We've started this at 214, which is after the video, because we want to show you that there is a problem here. We want you to recognise that problem before we deep dive into all the information. Now, straight off on this list, we've got at 214. After this video, immediately after it, somebody tried to unlock Libby's phone. It was unsuccessful. Therefore, we can only assume it wasn't Libby's finger trying to open it. We then jump to the moment when the states say that Richard Allen saw Webber's van. And we then, at the same time, have Apple Health telling us that movement of the phone ceased. It stopped, full stop.
That's from 218 is that from 218 to 225? That's 218 to 225, correct? There was no movement.
That's correct. So what we've got is, as I think you said 2 episodes ago, is by their story, Richard stopped in the middle of that copse when he saw Webber's van and decided not to abuse them. But according to the Apple Health data, he stopped there for 7 minutes. Now, if you were that panicking, how long would you stay there? Okay, he stayed there for 7 minutes. We then have the Apple Health data saying that they climbed approximately 20 feet and moved 50 meters. Well, at that position, there is nothing to climb. It's a gentle drop down to the creek. And it's more than 50 meters. So we've got them by the state story saying they stopped, they went down a 20-foot drop that's not there and carried on walking towards the creek.
And there's been some discrepancies about the Apple Health data, and it is my understanding that the elevation change can be accounted for going up or down, correct?
My understanding of it is it doesn't register going down. I'm not sure why not. You know, the barometric pressure would change up or down, I would have thought.
Well, that's what I think maybe the information that I read about that may have changed since 2017, what the Apple data will actually register, whether it's up or down. So I just wanted to ask that question because it's never been clarified fully as far as they've always made it out as the elevation change was an upward elevation change, but based on the steps and the meters moved, there's nothing to take them up at that,
absolutely
that area. Okay, carry on.
Everything from the bridge is downward.
Correct.
There is no 20-foot climb. Right. I can't move this screen up. Can you do that? Thank you.
Do you want to talk about what Cecil discussed on August 1st? Before I pass that up? Or did you already?
Yeah. What Cecil has basically done is he's done large reporting, by which I mean, whereas the Apple Health data is saying a few feet here, a few feet there, a few feet there. What Cecil has done in these remarks is he's made big block remarks. And unfortunately, that hides a lot of information, which is why I've had to look behind it to break it down as in short steps. Yeah.
And
I'm not quite sure why Cecil did that. All it does is it hides some information. Perhaps that's why he did it. I don't know.
And how accurate do you believe the Apple Health data is as far as in a terrain like this? If you are, for example, going down the hill and you're dealing with the terrain and it being uneven, and I'm sure there's like divots and mounds of dirt that they're walking over or stepping into. Will the Apple Health data like double up on steps, or how do you see that registering with this data on the phone? Because that terrain is rough.
Short answer is yes. Apple Health data can get it wrong.
Okay.
See, as I said on this sheet, it combines data from an altimeter and accelerometer accelerometer, it's a big word.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this all relies on barometric changes, which is the air pressure. And that depends on, obviously, the weather, the height you're moving. There's so many things that can affect the barometric pressure and change it. Even a few feet climb or a few feet drop. Now, sometimes the Apple Health data won't register that. Sometimes it will. So you can get a bit of a confusion there. But on the whole, it will not be massively out, from what I understand. And as it says on this screen, it can sometimes count short elevation gains and losses as a flight of stairs. Really, what it needs is to understand what the pressure was doing at that time of day in that particular period, in that particular place. In woodland, as far as I know, it can be subject to fluctuations, especially if there's water close by, which can alter it as well. Obviously, that would need an expert to confirm and explain. But the short answer to your question is yes, the Apple Health data can get it wrong. But I doubt that it would get it wrong by 2 flights of stairs. Okay?
Yep.
Right, so at 2:25, the Apple Health data says that this phone has started moving again. And it says it moves a total of 5 meters. That's not a lot, is it?
No.
So, and this is this is supposed to take them to the creek. Well, it doesn't. Nowhere near it. Can you move the screen up a bit?
Yes,
Sorry?
I can. What 5 meters converts to? That's only
3 foot per meter, roughly.
How much?
Rough gauge is 3 and a bit feet to a meter.
It's about 16 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not. So at this point, where do you have them? Are they so that because when you're there, you go down the first hill, you're on the private drive, and I believe the second hill is actually steeper than the first one. So at this point, in that general area, where do you believe? Where,
right. Can you see the picture to the left? See the picture to the left?
Yes.
Right. The first dot is where Apple Health data says that they stopped for that those few minutes. So that would be where Richard's supposed to have seen weather. Yeah?
Okay.
The second dot is where they moved to after that.
So that doesn't quite get them to the creek.
It doesn't, does it? No.
No, it doesn't.
Bear in mind, all that walk, you could be seen from that drive easily. And from the bridge.
Well, and from the bridge, yes. I mean, even at this point in time, you could, and now this is where the other part of the vault that we've been working on, the timeline, is you got to remember it's February. There are no leaves on the trees. And depending on where David McCain falls into this equation, and based on his testimony, which he is now pretty much locked into because he testified to it, was that he arrived when there were no vehicles at the Mears lot. And it's about an 8 to 9, with someone his age, maybe a 10-minute walk from Mears to the north end of the bridge. And he said he was on the bridge for 30 minutes. Those are his words. Now, what we have to do is drop him in the Mears lot at a time that we can confidently say there were no vehicles there. And
Amy,
yes.
quick answer to organic nature. They're questioning, don't you think it's 20 feet from the bridge down to the private drive? I think we should point out we're not talking about that part. This 20 feet drop is in the woods. Yeah, after the drive, it's in the middle of the woods. Okay.
Correct. Yes. Here, let me zoom this back out.
Sorry, I'm disturbing your train.
Okay. Do I need to scroll?
Yes, please.
There you go.
Right, we've now got 2:32 to 3 o'clock. For 18 minutes, no distance, no steps. They were standing still. So they stopped well back from the creek and stayed there for 18 minutes. Everything is recording that it stopped. And Knowledge C has recorded that the phone screen was turned off. Now that's interesting in itself, because that means up until then it was turned on.
Okay, now let's dig in here just a little bit, because watching other people do reviews of the phone data, I think there's a lot of people who believe this 232 put them on the other side of the creek, but not necessarily at the crime scene. So can you elaborate a little bit more how you got the numbers for the distances? Because I just know that a lot of people are going to question this, because a lot of people believe that by 2:32 they had already crossed the creek.
No, the Apple Health data, the distances that is recorded, drops them far short of it.
Okay.
Now, if you say, well, it's wrong, well, fine by me. That means you can't use any of the Apple Health data then. Therefore, you've got nothing to place them on crossing the bridge. You've got nothing to place them on anywhere. You don't get to pick and choose with this. Either the Apple Health data is correct and you can rely on it, or it's not and you throw it away.
Right.
Yeah. Now, a lot of the Apple Health data works out beautifully. I haven't come to that part yet. But you can't say, well, we'll accept that part, but then when we get the bit that doesn't tie in with the state's argument, it's wrong. You can't have that.
Right.
Okay?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So we are taking it that the Apple Health data, because it fits known events at the start of its run, we haven't got to that bit yet. We should be able to rely on the information it's given us for these times. That's a fair thing to do, isn't it?
It is.
It's telling the truth. It's telling the truth. And the Apple Health data is saying they stopped well short of the creek. They never made it to it.
Which means they would be right out in the open.
Right out in the open. Easily seen by anyone going past, crossing the bridge. Even people kayaking up the creek could have seen them where they stopped. They were wide open.
18 minutes is a long time.
It's a long time to stand still. Especially when you've got two girls which you've abducted.
And I do want to point out, when you're talking about the phone screen going on and off, Libby had a code, a passcode on her, or a thumbprint on her phone to unlock the phone. However, the automatic lock was not enabled on her phone. For example, if you open up your phone and you use your thumbprint, or you put in your code and you open up your home screen and you toggle through your phone and you don't click the side button and put it down, if you click the side button, your phone screen turns off. But if you don't have an automatic lock enabled, say 30 seconds or up to 2 minutes after you've used the phone will just sit there and stay awake. So that's how Libby had the phone set up. So if she did not hit that side button on her phone and put it in her pocket, the phone in her pocket would still be awake. Her phone was not, the lock screen didn't automatically kick in after 30 seconds or up to 2 minutes. You have options to program your phone or select how you want your phone to lock. So the on and off screen on this phone is very important, because once the phone's awake, it stays awake. There's a lot of things with this that just, it doesn't add up. Go ahead.
Right. Now the thing is, it is at this point that the Apple Health data ceased to provide information. No one has to wonder why. Because the phone continued to ping, to do things and so on, but Apple Health data ceased.
And my theory.
Sorry.
My theory has been that once we know that the defense was limited on, I'm not going to get into the money and all of that, but we know that they were limited on what they were able to do, or at least they were trying to penny pinch to save funds for other experts. So they paid for things that they felt were most important, but there were a lot of things that could have been done with this phone that did not get done. For example, information after 232. What I'm eager to find out down the road, if we get further examination of this phone, if there's going to be an indication in the Cellubrite data or in the actual other two types of extractions that they did, if we're going to see any kind of indication if the SIM card was removed. And if the SIM card was removed, would eliminate any type of pinging on the phone? Is that correct? It would no longer communicate anywhere.
Correct.
Okay. So at this point in time, that wouldn't be an option, the SIM card being removed, because the Apple Health data is not working, but it's actually communicating with the tower at some point. Is that right?
That's what it looks like, yes.
Okay.
Right. One of in the chat, Locard has said that Apple steps can be off by up to 3%. I agree. The steps themselves are a mess. He also says distance variations can be off 30 to 40%. I think the percentage is debatable, but in any event, as I was saying earlier, the data we've got for the earlier positions and movements and so on are fitting well. Therefore, to all intents and purposes, the Apple Health data was at this time marking the distances pretty accurately. But yes, they can be slightly out. I'm not sure about 30 to 40%, but anyway, where were we?
Okay, we're here at 2:32 to 3 o'clock. The phone stops moving for 18 minutes, and
right.
We're getting
from then on.
Yep.
Yeah, from then on, the only distance we get are, to quote, ranges 3 to 5,400 yards, which equates to 3 miles. That's not a very good location, is it? Within 3 miles of somewhere.
Mm-mm.
Right. So we can't really identify after 3 o'clock from any of the information that Cecil or Bunner or anything like that came up with. All we can glean from them is what the phone was doing and what other phones were doing. Now, the one I found interesting was the one at 3:02. We have an unknown phone that was detected within 60 to 100 yards. Now, if you remember back to where they were, not where that picture shows, short of the creek, by about 30 yards, something like that. And here we have an unknown phone within 60 to 100 yards of them. Any guesses on who that phone could be?
Could it be somebody that was on the bridge?
It could be somebody who's on the bridge. Possibly it could reach the Webber's house, 100 yards. Tight, but possibly.
Well, we know that his phone pinged at that residence at 2:50, Brad Weber's. You've got Cheyenne and you have Shelby Duncan, who supposedly crossed the bridge, which you can't even be certain of their times. She said she got a phone call at 3:12 before she got on the bridge. So they would have been at the south end of the bridge by 3:15, 3:20, depending, about 3:20. So that's two people down there, but I would have thought that those phones would have been identified.
You would have thought so. If it was Cheyenne's or Brad Weber's, they would know it.
Or Duncan. Or Duncan's, yes. Because we know, apparently, somebody, yeah. And then you've got Shelby Hicks, you've got Daniel Pearson, and you've got Dan McCain. All right out there, supposedly moving about around the north end of the bridge. But that's almost too far.
But all these phones were known to the police, and so was Ron Logan's. So why would they have this as an unknown if it was any of them? Right.
And the only phone that they ever identified, well, we only know that because of the search warrant. At trial, they never came out that obviously they wanted the geofencing left out, but they never identified, well, these phones were in the geofence or in that location, and we know who they belong to. We know that there's an unidentified number or an unidentified phone here, which is, I guess we have to call it unidentified.
Yeah. There's also no reason not to think, could it have been Abby's?
Correct.
If she had one, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the police should have known whose that was if it was any of them. The only way it can be unknown is if they didn't know the person. But then it's quite easy to track. You can even track a burner. So it should not be unknown. Certainly not 7 years later. And that's a tip for all you guys out there. Having a burner doesn't protect you from being found.
Right. So do we need, are we going to go down here into the red, the careful calibration?
Yeah, we can go down further, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. We're now starting to see some of the... Sorry?
I didn't know if I needed to go down a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to go over this, what's in red here?
Right. Some of that becomes clear when we look at some of the other sheets.
Okay.
But we can point it out now so that people can keep an eye out for it when it occurs.
Yes, we don't have to come back. Yes, we don't have to come back.
Yeah. Right. We've gone over every single thing with a tooth comb. picking every single thing that's happened, every single distance, allowing this way and that way, to try and isolate what is fact and what is not, and try and work out the route from there. The outcome of that has produced some very interesting things. For instance, it does not allow Abby and Libby to go over the creek at 3:06. It does not identify any two-store climbing, which we've already said. It does not put Abby and Libby at the south end of the bridge at 2:13. That's something we will be coming to. And it also does not put them in a position necessary to take the 2:08 photograph. Again, that's something we will come to, so keep an eye out for that. And it does not put them in the position necessary for remember the black and white photograph of the bridge at 2:05? They're not in the position to take that either. We also have a problem with what went on at the Mears lot and the journey to the Mears lot. Now, all those things will be coming out as we work through the sheets, but keep those in mind. You're going to see why. Okay? Now, from here, we're more identifying phone calls to and from the bridge, like the time that Derek German phoned Libby's phone. So we're starting to introduce some information from other people's phones as well to try and work things out. Unfortunately, we're again tied by Cecil and Bunner saying radius estimate approximately 3,000 to 5,400 yards. Well, that would be ridiculous unless you're trying to say that Derek German was 3 miles away when he phoned from Wilson's Bridge. He wasn't. We all know it's not 3 miles away. So if we roll up a bit more, we now get Derek's phone while he was parked at Mears. We have the information that confirms that he did phone Libby's phone at 3:14, but again, radius estimate 3 miles. So we're still saying 3 miles away. Well, Mears is not 3 miles away from the crime scene, the bridge, anything like that. So we're still having problems with the state experts' evidence. Now, roll up a bit more. Now here we have an interesting one for somebody who isn't mentioned much. DP, Daniel Pearson. According to the records from his, at 3:19, he received a text while he was at or near the north end of the bridge. And we'll ignore this at 5,000. Sorry?
He said he was sitting on the first platform and he got a text from his mother.
That's correct. At 3:19. Now, if he was sitting on that bridge, what did he see? Why didn't he say anything? How did others walk past him? How did Cheyenne walk past him and not notice him? Because she never mentioned him.
She did at trial, but not in the beginning.
She did at trial, but up until then, she never mentioned him at all. She suddenly remembered it at trial, didn't she?
Yes, and the interesting thing about her statements in the beginning was that she ran into 2 friends that she went to school with. Well, she lived in Monticello, and DP went to school in Delphi. So there's just a lot of inaccurate reportings of who actually was with this group, and there's definitely some questions about how Daniel Pearson arrived versus how Shelby Hicks arrived, because Shelby Hicks drove a 2004 silver Impala, and she had to go in and speak with law enforcement to verify information about her vehicle. According to her grandfather, which we have the text messages from now, he claimed that her vehicle was parked further down by Freedom Bridge. And he didn't believe that her and Daniel Pearson arrived together. We still have not been able to find clarification on what Daniel Pearson was driving and where he parked.
No, at the moment, we've got some strong indications of where, but it's not strong enough to say it is a fact. That fair to say? Right. So again, we're getting at 3:24, Derek German's phone. We've identified, yes, he did, as he said, he found it at 3:24. He did. But now we come to another unknown number 3. Again, this one is within 60 to 100 yards of where the bodies were found. They managed to confirm that this phone was not the one found with the girls, and it is not Richard Allen's. And the FBI, as to quote them, said it was a device at the cemetery around the time of murders. And Murphy, if you remember, he was one of the ones who talked about the Odinist report, stated that they believed it connected to one of 5 or 6 people mentioned in his investigation. So therefore, Murphy was saying it was one of those 5 or 6 people he was investigating was at the cemetery around the time of the murders. Which is a fairly big revelation. And it also makes you wonder, why is it an unknown phone if the FBI knew that much about it? Anything you want to add to that, Amy?
Yep. Did you ask me a question?
Sorry, did you want to add anything to that? What I've said about this unknown number 3?
Only that I think I wish there was a way that we could put, like, I need to like paint the bridge on my wall here in my office and just start putting pin nails in the wall to identify these phones and these people and their location, because you get so focused on one thing and you forget about everything else that was moving around when all of this was going on. That makes it almost impossible to believe this happened the way it is impossible that this happened the way the state did. And what we're talking about right here doesn't even have anything to do with who was driving the white vehicle that came in on the private drive at 2:08. And when the girls were taken down the hill, if this was a planned targeted attack on these 2 girls, were they passed off to somebody else? I'm taking the Ron Logan thing off the table. I'm just saying, hypothetically, wide open, the movements of the Apple Health data, the movements of everyone around, and unidentified phones, and you've got the FBI telling you in 2019 that what I'm reading in this is that they know who that phone belonged to, but they're still listing it as unidentified because they can't say they believe it connect to one of the 5 people in that group without having any kind of substantial information to back that up.
Yep, I'd agree with that.
Then you have to ask yourself, when that white car pulled in at 2:08 and came right back out, of course, they could have dropped somebody off, Or they could have been, in my opinion, called to like, hey, get here, whatever the plan was. They turn around and leave the private drive. Did they drive all the way around to the cemetery? I mean, there's so many possibilities that were not explored or discussed at trial. It just makes this, I mean, you could dive into just February 13th for months and still have unanswered questions because of the shitty investigation that was done. That's it.
Yeah. Cemetery keeps popping up, doesn't it?
It sure does. And I think people they're going to see why, but go ahead.
Right. Let's scroll it up a bit. Right. A bit further. I think. Is that the end of the page? There's more, is there?
Yep, there's more. There you go.
Right. 332. Yep. We've got confirmation from Derek's data that he did phone again within 3 miles. We've got confirmation that he phoned a few times, which is fine. That would be expected. And now we've got Cheyenne. She's starting to use her phone. At 3:49, she's uploading photos whilst on the bridge. So as you can see, it's getting pretty busy there. And again, we've got the data showing that Derek is still trying to phone and trying to contact Libby. And we've now got information from Becky's phone coming in, showing that she was also trying to contact. Well, we've known this for quite a while. That's fine. Now we get Tara arriving, and she's trying to phone as well. So it's telling us roughly that this information is roughly on the ball time-wise. It's what all the family have been saying, it's what's been witnessed and so on. It's fitting. Again, Becky phoning at 4:30, and then the text and the SMS being sent to her is all fairly standard stuff, which has been confirmed. 5 o'clock, we've got more phone calls to the phone. And remember, none of these are registering on her phone at the moment because they're not going through, because the phone is off. Okay? That's it. Now at 5:45, Kelsey decides to phone Libby's phone. I think that's rather a long time for her to make a phone call to her sister, but hey ho. The AT&T data, according to Blosher, said that was the last contact event between Libby's phone and, this is important, the Wells Street Tower. So throughout this time, Libby's phone has been connecting with the Wells Street Tower, not the one nearer. Strange.
And what do you think that could be an indication of?
Dangerous question. To me, that says, well, being kind. Let's say Kelsey was also using one of Becky's spare phones. Could that have been pinging from the Wells Street Tower? Possibly. Could the Wells Street Tower be picking up stuff over the bridge? Unlikely. Could Libby's phone have taken a trip closer to the Wells Street Tower? That is also a possibility. But of course, this is all guesswork. all we know is that it was being picked up by the Wells Street Tower, oddly, and it has stopped doing that at this precise moment. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those questions of what's going on, which we
Right.
still don't have the answer for. Not a positive answer. Now here we have a strange thing. We have Eldridge saying that although it lost contact with the tower, the Apple Health data was continuing to log that it was gathering data. Now, anyone who's got Apple Health data will know that must mean it was on. It just wasn't using the data. That's an odd one, isn't it?
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
And something else to point out too is the photo that was taken at 2:05 by Libby. The data on that, the metadata on that photograph hones in exactly where she's at. And that is prior to when the video starts at 2:13, that the phone registers its location closer to the high school.
That's
and
correct,
then it's very odd that in specific situations and locations and time frames, this phone it's like the phone is evasive of information at pertinent times that would tell us exactly where this phone was. It's almost like it's like not available, and I don't understand. And I know there's also a discrepancy with the phone, and it's registering its location at 2:13, because it's my understanding that geolocation didn't hone in to the actual location of where the phone was until 4 seconds after the video ended.
I believe it was 4 seconds after the video started.
Or 4 seconds after. You're right. Yeah, not after it ended, after it started. So it's just very, it's bizarre. But go ahead.
Absolutely bizarre. The other thing here is that the state experts established that something was plugged into Libby's phone. Now, bear in mind that at this time, this phone is supposed to be lying underneath Abby at the crime scene, and has been there, according to them, about 2.25 hours at least, maybe longer. And something gets plugged in. Now, there've been lots of theories about that a bit of mud or something got into it. Well, that's pretty unlikely, especially as I believe there was one of the shoes was covering it as well. And then, of course, there was Abby covering that. But if we can just quote Eldridge, I cannot think of any explanation that does not involve humans. He went out on a limb there, didn't he? Now, how could something get plugged in? There's only a few options. Somebody reached under Abby, and took the phone out and plugged something in, or the phone was not under Abby at the time. Now, the first option means that the perp was still on site messing around at 5:45. The second option, that's rather scary, isn't it?
Well, wait a minute. He was supposed to be muddy and bloody walking down 300 at 4 o'clock.
Yes, 15 minutes after that, he's supposed to be up on the 300 North, wandering down without a care, covered in blood.
Approaching everybody who was out there at the Mears lot.
Yeah.
But he was not caught on camera. Either camera.
And wasn't seen by anybody at the Mears lot. And getting to that position in 15 minutes is really moving it, really, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And why would somebody want to plug something into the phone anyway? That should have been looked into deeply. I can't understand why it was not. Right.
Now
we're starting to getting back into the data that's coming in from other phones like Kelsey's, etc., etc. And we're also going back into the cell tower data. We're also getting Ron Logan's phone being picked up. So much so that we've even got it very tightly positioned.
So that's the coordinates for him.
That's correct. He's well now down to a specific point. Ignore the estimate of approximately 3,000 to 5,000. He's 466 yards away from his house, 5858 West, 300 North. Which puts him down near the bridge at 7:56.
And he, I believe no one ever claimed that he came out and helped search.
No, as far as I've found, he didn't.
Okay, so now we're on to, after Logan, we're on to Blotter.
Right. And Blocher, his evaluations are quite interesting. If I can quote him or paraphrase him, the cell phone is either 1, no longer in the area, or 2, no longer in working condition. So either, in his view, either it's been moved out of the area or nothing else can ever happen with it again. It's no longer in working condition. It's dead. Yeah. So it cannot ping, it cannot connect, it cannot make phone calls, it cannot receive phone calls, nothing. And then we have a long line of pings, which cannot happen if it's no longer in working condition. Ping after ping after ping. Sorry?
Where did the pings? Whose report did the pings come from?
AT&T.
Okay.
Cell tower data.
Okay. And then, so we got Libby's phone pinging at 10:15, and then Ron Logan's phone pinging at 10:16.
Yep. And there's Ron Logan again. Still 466 yards from his house at 10:16.
The same distance.
The same distance, which would tend to suggest the same place. Been there a while, hasn't he, in the same place?
I would say.
And this is right in the middle of the searchers. And nobody saw him. Could that mean that, yes, it was his phone, but it wasn't him?
Right.
Which then brings us to, who would he lend his phone to? And why? And why was that person standing there for so long? And the big question, why wasn't he asked that? If we can see that question staring at us, surely the police did. Now we now have Libby's phone still pinging away. Pretty good for a completely dead phone.
And just to remind everybody, the phone was at 4% at some point after the girls had crossed the bridge. All this activity going on in the background of the phone is, unless the phone was plugged into something to keep it charged, I don't know how that's possible.
It's not a straight answer.
It's not. Okay, so we have a 10:30 ping.
Yes, and then at 10:32, here's Cecil again, doing what Cecil does the best, changing the mind in trial. It stayed on until 4:30 all of a sudden, even though he'd already said it died at 10:32. As an expert, I wouldn't let him fry me an egg. I really wouldn't. Eldridge confirmed that it was logged by the phone, that something was plugged in, and he said it was wired headphones. Now, headphones, well, if you're sitting in the middle of a crime scene and there's searchers all around, I suppose headphones, if you wanted to listen to what was on the phone, that would be a logical thing.
Right.
So we've got somebody went out there with a set of headphones just in case they wanted to listen to a phone that they weren't sure was going to be there. Yeah, I'll buy that because I'm stupid.
Yeah.
And now he decided it could have been wired headphones or an aux cable. Really? And what would the aux cable be for? Questions on a postcard. So there's an awful lot of questions here that just weren't being asked, aren't there?
There's a lot.
Yeah. And now we have again some cell phone data from AT&T picking up Libby's phone, that dead one, which it can't pick up. And now we have an SMS message received by the phone. A phone that is off and dead is receiving SMS messages. It's just not right, is it?
Mm-mm.
And then we get a lot, and then we're getting pings again.
And
Sorry?
Cecil's report reported that, but it was not in Bunner's report.
Yes. These two obviously didn't sit down and get their reports straight, did they?
They did not.
And I'm sorry, defence attorneys, but why didn't you pick this up? That they were contradicting each other and not answering questions that should have been asked. And here we go again, pings galore to this phone that's dead, can't work, not receiving anything, and here it is pinging again. And it's interesting to remember also that Leesenby said that they couldn't get it to ping. Do you remember him saying that, Amy?
I believe so.
Yeah.
But we had Mike Patty. Well, first of all, we had Mike Patty on the news saying the phone was pinging all over town. The fireman who did the interview standing in front of the fire truck, who was concerned about his firefighters, said that they were out there looking in areas based on the pinging of the cell phone. And then the individual who testified that the defense called, who couldn't remember not one damn statement he made 3 weeks prior in a deposition, about the phone pinging. So there was talk that whole entire evening about this phone pinging that then later we're told was dead.
Yeah. In fact, according to the data, Mike was right about it pinging all over the town.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can go into I can come back into the chat real quick, and maybe we can answer some questions, because I'm sure everybody's going bananas. Okay, let me scroll up here.
Yes, cellular magnet do pass different info.
Thank you, April. Thank you so much, April. Let's see.
There's a lot in the in the Richard Allen search warrant, which was outright lies. But unfortunately, the police are allowed to do that, lie in these sort of things.
Okay, let's start with all eyes. Backtracking here, guys, in the chat. The phone went with everything else at the crime scene to the autopsy, where it was all logged, swabbed, and then sent to the various labs or examiners. Carnoodle says Libby and Abby were never there. Not sure why I thought it went with Libby. I can't say for sure now that I think about it. Not sure what you're talking about. Sorry. V says to all eyes, I asked before the trial, he said he thought they had the right guy. His wife pushed back on that and said, like that wasn't fair to say. He then said, okay, fair, there wasn't enough. Sorry, I'm just reading your comments, guys. I'm not sure. I think I'm hopping into a conversation. Litigation. Examiner says the phone couldn't have been off. No, the phone was not off. But the bigger question is, how was the phone still on if it only was at 4% with all of that activity going on in the background? It's
as all I said, there is only one way it could happen, and that is if someone is standing there physically turning it on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off, to try and save battery time. That would seem a strange thing to do.
The tower, there was, at the time, there were 3 towers, and 2 of them are located damn near side by side over on Wells Street. Let me see here. How far? I don't think I actually registered the distance on that. Quester, do you remember how far Wells Street is from the crime scene?
Offhand, I can't remember the exact distance, no.
I think I have it in here. Okay. So there's it's 3451 North Wells Road, and then there was another one at 3217 North Wells Road. The 3217 isn't AT&T. It's registered to AT&T. The other one is owned by someone named Crown Castle. Now there's a third cell phone tower that was literally directly across from Logan's property, and that one was not supposedly working at the time. And I do believe we went over that on the Google Earth, because it's literally right across the street in the field across from Logan's.
Yeah.
So,
and the strange thing is, it would fit with some of the information that was coming in from towers. So I don't know, perhaps AT&T have a repeater on there or something like that. I don't know.
Somebody just asked, was DP at trial? No, DP was not at trial, and the only time you ever heard his name was when Cheyenne testified and when Shelby Hicks testified. Shelby Duncan, who arrived with Cheyenne, never testified. All I says, Cecil didn't look through all of the data all of the way to the end to see it said auxiliary in plain text because he immediately tried to Google the codes instead. He's got some very bad habits.
Tell me about it, hasn't he just?
Let me see here. And Cindy says, so Libby is aware enough to film someone, yet knew she would be meeting someone out on the bridge and left the house with a drained battery. And Becky Patty said, phone was always fully charged. And she was charging the phone in the car as well.
She was.
On the way to the bridge. I don't understand the gaps in the data and why they're there, and to make them make sense, all you can do is go to a nefarious opinion that something intentionally was done immediately with that phone. And I think the only good thing that can come of that is that whoever was handling the phone or manipulating the phone knew exactly what they were doing. So that's going to take you down limiting who your POIs are, in my opinion, because not everybody is technically savvy.
Yeah.
But I feel like somebody was doing something with that phone. What do you think about that, Quester?
There's also a possibility, say she did leave the house with a fully charged phone and in the car exchanged it for one that wasn't.
Yeah,
it's a possibility, although why she would want to do that, I don't know.
So on the screen, guys, I can put the chat up on the screen. It's just hard for me. It's hard for me to read. But can you see this? Can you see the chat if I add it to the screen like that, Quester, in the bottom right-hand corner? Okay,
yeah,
that might help. Yeah, I've not used that that little tool because I just didn't think that I would be able to read it. But I know that you have trouble toggling back and forth. Belle Mayhem, she says the GPS from the bridge guy video came up near the highway west of the bridge. I always thought that it came up near the high school.
That's where it's supposed to have started, yes. High school. Although, again, that testimony got changed in trial, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. So let's see here. Christina says there's an early article that says the girls recorded a man on the bridge during was law enforcement called criminal activity. I wonder what that means.
Abduction, presumably.
So are we ready to EOA's here. Hello, I have Apophis. If the state claims the phone traveled from the Patty's home, that narrows down who had the phone. We do know that it traveled from the Patty's house to the Mears lot. Correct?
We know it was at the house, and we know it was at Mears lot. It had to travel between them, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to pull this back up. and we will get into February 14th. So we are now after midnight, February 14th, starting at 4:31 a.m. There's
Right, as you can see, we're getting SMSs going to the phone. This phone that's dead. SMS coming in.
that's one thing. That's one thing that they didn't deny.
Right, and we then get a whole pile of back ones coming in. All the ones that hadn't come up until then started coming in. I think there was 14 of them came in.
There was, I forget the exact number, but there was quite a few. So, in your opinion, what happened with the phone that would have caused to allow all of those backlogged messages to come in? What could have happened to the phone?
That normally happens when you've had a phone that's been turned off and you turn it on. You will then receive all the messages that it didn't receive during the off period. Therefore, this would suggest that somebody just turned the phone on at 4:33. It's the only way that could happen, unless the phone turned itself on itself while it was under Abby. I don't know about you, but I think I know which one's more logical.
Correct. So then Eldridge said that it was in and out of service before 5:45 p.m. And I wonder why that would be if the phone was stable.
Well, it's funny how they were saying earlier that it was the last thing ever to be received, that it was out of service, that it was stopped working, and now it's in and out of service. See, they can't even get their own story straight. They're jumping around all over the place, which says a big, I don't know what I'm talking about. Or they're hiding something.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a bit of both.
And she wasn't able to determine why it didn't ping between 5:45 p.m. and 4:33 a.m., even though it was under Abby's back and was stationary. That's what I thought. I can only conclude something external happened to the phone. It could have been moved, blocked by metal, blocked from the tower. That was Eldridge's statements on November 5th, 2024.
Yeah. But the thing to take home is he's admitting that he believes something external happened to the phone. How?
Yeah, because I mean, it's been under Abby under a Nike shoe since around 2:32.
Yeah, over 12 hours it's been lying under her.
That phone has been doing a lot underneath Abby.
It has. It's got a life of its own, hasn't it?
It does, and I think that we're dealing with magic dirt, according to the state, because all of these issues with these plugins and unplugging is just dirt. So 7:16 a.m. Well, at 4:34 a.m. there's no activity recorded by Libby's phone after 4:34 a.m. on February 14th. But at 7:16 a.m. there's a ping, correct?
So I can't see the eye. I have a possis things over it.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. Hold on.
It's okay.
Hold on. Let me go in. Oh, here we are, 7:16 a.m.
So
Can
there we
you
are
see it?
again. I can see it now, thanks. So now this phone is pinging again. So it has been turned on, and whatever, if it was blocked by metal, that metal's been removed. If it had been moved, it's been put back. I mean, come on, what's happening here? We then get a whole stream of pings every 15 minutes, all the way up to 11:30 in the morning. So that means it's been on for 4 hours. No turning off. And as you said, it was pretty low on the battery, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yet here it is sitting there for 4 hours on.
So I'm wondering.
In fact, longer, because it carried on pinging after that, as you can see. Till 12 o'clock it was pinging. That's 5 hours. Sorry, you were wondering what, Amy?
Well, I'm just trying to think of all of the available options in 2017 to a with an iPhone 6 that I don't recall hearing anything about there being a charger being plugged in. It's just this jack. And I'm trying and I'm wondering if we did some research on the iPhone 6 and that jack where you can plug in headphones, if there's any type of other devices like a Bluetooth speaker or an adapter in a vehicle that would plug into that jack and actually charge the phone at the same time. I just don't think that was possible. I don't even think that it's possible now. And I don't know how they I don't know how to account for that battery. Even if the battery was fully charged, let's say when the video ended at 2:14 p.m. If the phone was fully charged, I can go to work myself with my phone fully charged and have my phone in my pocket and notification, things working in the background on my phone. By the time I go to my second break around 11 o'clock, my phone is almost dead. It's at least halfway drained. You're talking about a phone that has gone now an excessive amount of hours with all of this activity in the background on the phone, and the phone never died.
How old was this phone? How old was this phone?
It was a 2000, I believe it was a 2000, or it was an iPhone 6. You're talking about Libby's phone? How long did she have it? I don't know.
Because as you know, batteries do deteriorate. And Apple ones seem to love deteriorating. And the more they deteriorate, the less they can hold.
So here's another question that we should be asking. If the phone died, or the phone, let me scroll back up here, so that we stopped getting anything. There was a 4-hour period where there was nothing on the phone, correct?
Yep.
So if the phone died or the phone was turned off, which we've lost all of the on and off records, if the phone was turned off, I wonder if the phone could have been plugged in to be charged while it was off, and that wouldn't register. I'm just trying to think of some reasonable explanation, because
yes, but how do you plug the phone in to be charged out in the middle of the woods when the phone's underneath the body?
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. But I'm trying to find a reasonable explanation as to why we don't have any type of information in the data that shows that the phone was plugged in to be charged, and who can answer the question that if the phone is turned off and you plug it in to be charged, the battery is powering up, but I don't know if the iPhone 6 would automatically turn back on, but I do know that with almost every cell phone I have ever owned, if your battery is low enough for your phone to turn off, unless that phone is charged, you're not getting that phone to turn back on.
Not automatically, no.
No. I mean, that sounds silly to talk about, but it's absolutely what needs to be talked about with this, because it does not make any sense. And we need to find someone who can make it make sense.
And the only way you could have charged a phone out there in the woods is if you had one of those battery packs. So we're now at the purpose, got quite a kit in his tool bag, hasn't he?
Mm-hmm. He thought of everything.
He's thought absolutely everything, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But we still don't know why he's doing this. Surely.
Yeah.
Why didn't he just carry a sledgehammer?
Pretty much, right.
Yeah. We wouldn't have had to do any of this. One whack and that's the whole thing solved.
Yeah, he could have smashed the phone into pieces.
Yeah. Picked up the SIM, thrown it in the creek. End of.
He could have drove it to Lafayette and threw it out the window on the way to the fish store.
Yeah.
He could have thrown it in the creek.
Why do all this playing with it and meddling and then leave it? Unless you were putting something on it to be found.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I can think of to do all this.
So the last couple of interactions that the phone had was what, 11:46 a.m. to 12:01 p.m.
Yeah. And again, the phone is now not responding. So it's dead again.
And we conveniently don't have any type of records of on and offs.
No. They accidentally destroyed that, didn't they?
And even that in an extraction, I don't know if anybody would even have the ability to remove any type of information from an extraction to make any of this to believe that this phone data is nefarious because someone made it nefarious. I'm not a phone expert. I don't know how that works. I wouldn't think that they would be able to go into a Cellubrite report and remove or delete anything. And it just made it's the most bizarre situation ever. So
yeah, because it's almost impossible to mess with the Cellubrite info. That would take some serious conspiracy theory to do that.
So all eyes, you said I know probably why, but I hate probably. You know probably why. Am I missing something?
Yeah, it's a nasty word, isn't it? It can drop you in so much trouble, even when it's right.
Woman doing false memory says she thinks they had a Fairway bag.
I presume that's a Faraday. Well, yes and no. Anything metal, like I don't know, toolbox, anything would do. If you start saying that they had a Faraday bag with them, you're getting into more tools that the perp was carrying in his little bag. Yeah, just how big was this? Was it a trolley?
What about a jetpack? No SIM using Wi-Fi from the pack.
A jetpack?
I'm not sure what a jetpack is.
Isn't that something that you fly with?
It could be.
I'm not quite sure what they mean by that.
Keith says it's because the killers wanted the phone to be found.
100% agree with that.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. If they didn't want that phone to be found, sledgehammer.
iPhone 6 was released in September of 2015. So that means the phone couldn't have been older than 2 years old.
Right. So the battery was probably okay.
Yeah.
Depending on how much it was used, of course.
And I know you can't on an iPhone. You can't just you can't just change the battery. You have to have. It's like a minuscule little toolkit with screws and things like that. Not something that you could probably do in the middle of the woods. I wouldn't think.
No.
And I think that if the battery was removed, we wouldn't have any of this activity either. Just like if the SIM card was removed.
If the SIM card was removed, that would save on the battery. It would knock the phone out. But it's not an easy thing to do in the dark in the woods.
No, it's not. And
you can remember all this is if it's being done at the crime scene, he's surrounded by people searching for them, and he's sitting there happily with his toolbox and his Faraday bag and all his other paraphernalia, happily playing away with the phone. Really? I don't believe that. Do you?
no. I mean, I think. I mean, the only flaws, I guess, it's like I try to cut away all of the what's just really down the rabbit hole. Assuming Ron Logan was involved, his property is right there. So I don't know if there's a block of time in this data that can contribute to possibly the phone being turned off briefly and it's taken into the house and I don't know, put into something metal, turned back on, charged. I mean, I don't know what the data is going to show. I'm assuming if it shows that an adapter was plugged in for headphones, it would definitely show that there was a charger plugged in. But the house being right there allows for easier manipulation versus unless the girls were put in a car and taken somewhere. But the phone data doesn't show that either.
Correct.
Or does it? Is there another page that we have? I feel like I have another page to go over.
Oh, you do. This is just after 2 o'clock. We can now go to what happened before that, if you'd like.
Okay, let me get that pulled up here.
We've now established that there's something decidedly wrong here after the video of BG. Is there anything wrong before? Yes, that is very puzzling, Michael.
Okay, I hope this is the right one. Should be. Is this correct?
That's the one.
Okay.
Right. You got Michael's message over it, by the way.
Oh.
Thanks.
There we go.
Right, we've gone right back to the start. In the first section, we have the Apple Health data. Essentially, between 10:55 and 13:31, it shows what you'd expect in your house. A little bit of walking, a little bit of sitting, a little bit of pottering around, that sort of thing. There doesn't seem to be any problems there. The steps don't marry up to the distances, but as we've already said, forget the steps. They're all over the place normally. No. It's nice that the Apple Health data here said 13:31 because we know that the family said the girls left then. So we can safely assign all those times up to 13:31 to them being in the house. And they left at 13:30. Now, if we go back a bit, the next part is saying there's an unknown phone sitting at 12:39, approximately 60 to 100 yards away from the eventual crime scene. So somebody was already down there at 12:30.
Cutting
we
branches?
know that. Sorry?
Cutting branches?
Well, who knows? Setting up a workstation for the phone?
Right. Yeah. I mean, these people, they're good.
Yeah. So, although, yeah, people could be wandering through there, but it's just a bit coincidental. At 12:43, we know Bree took a photograph at Freedom Bridge. No, that's not Freedom Bridge. That was Monon Bridge, wasn't it? At 12:43, wasn't it? Or am I getting confused?
No, you're right. No, it was at 12:43. The discrepancy is the time that they arrived at Freedom Bridge, and it took them almost 40 minutes to make it to.
Yeah, they arrived about 11:30, didn't they? 11:30. Yeah.
And that's why we think they went down to the what is it? The 501 path down to the water.
Yeah, the Mary Gerard Reserve.
Yes.
Yeah, the amount of time that's unaccounted for fits perfectly for going down there and coming back up. And I remember years ago, the lady said that she took photographs down there at some time. Anyway, here we have the Apple Health data on Libby's phone, 13:31. This is when she left the house. She managed to do 23 meters in no minutes. Well, maybe she was just running around the car before she got in. Who knows why? And then for 20 minutes, they were walking 164 meters. That's pretty odd, really. Because do you remember what time they're supposed to have arrived?
They were supposed to be dropped off around 1:48, 1:47. Yep. Kelsey's car was seen at 1:49 on the Hoosier Harvest Store camera. But in 20 minutes.
Yeah, 1:38. They're supposed to have arrived. Cecil did provide some useful information in there on what was happening with the phone during that time. The phone was plugged in to charge. Libby made calls. She was sending messages and viewing Snapchat. So she was sitting in the car, using her phone, charging it until 1:39 at least. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So if we work through this, 13:31 is when they started their drive. Yep.
Correct, from leaving the Patties.
And it's a 5-minute drive, roughly. So 5 minutes of this 1:31 to 1:39 could not consume any distances, movements, whatever. That leaves 15 minutes and 188 meters movement to account for. They arrived at 13:38, which is 13 minutes within this period. Fine. That's rather long for a 5-minute journey, isn't it? And it still leaves 7 minutes and 188 meters. But as I've said here, let's pretend the drive was longer and she was off by a few minutes about when they arrived. We could cover the time discrepancy, sort of, but how would you then explain the steps, or the 188 meters, because you're in the car? It doesn't explain it, does it?
No, it does not.
No. So if you go back and work through it, the only way that you could explain all this movement is if they stopped somewhere on that journey. Yeah?
That's, mm-hmm.
For 8 minutes. And the phone got out of the car and moved around 188 meters. That's a lot. In 8 minutes. So, is there a store or a shop or something like that on the way that they might have stopped off at?
I don't think the route that they would have taken. I don't know. We might have to do a Google Earth journey on that.
Well, I've had a look and I can't find any on that route. The only things I find on that route are Ron Logan's property, Pat Brown's is close, and of course the cemetery. They're the only places I find that could conceivably be somewhere to stop. But why, I don't know.
Or
the only other alternative is something happened at Mears that Kelsey has chosen to not tell us about. That involved an awful lot of running around.
And we do know that there was a reported, supposedly a reported argument between Libby and Abby that could have happened at Mears.
No. As an aside, do you remember I sent you a photograph of an area to the side of Mears lot that that Ellie had taped off on the day?
I don't remember. Let me see.
That's okay. I'll send it to you a little bit later.
Okay.
But anyway, as you're going into Mears, on the left, if you look up, there used to be an old abandoned trailer. That trailer is on the top of a descent, which is approximately 20 feet. Interesting coincidence. Down the bottom is where the LE put their tapes up on the 13th.
They put it up on the 13th or the 14th?
Sorry, the 14th. Yeah. Now, one has to wonder why they taped off that area and why they've never explained why they taped off that area. Did Ellie believe something happened there?
I'm going to have to pull out that picture. And 77 steps from the Mears lot. Would that be a reason? Would that be a reasonable amount of distance to the area that you're talking about?
It would. So would 188 meters would get you down there. 8 minutes, yes. Because again, it's a fair bit of a drop, so that's going to confuse. We're back to the barometric pressure problem. So going down probably wouldn't have registered, but coming back up could have.
So, okay, let's keep going.
Personally, I think it's more likely that something happened at Mears, a falling out or something, than them stopping somewhere. But it could be either.
And that amount of time frame too also.
It should have been questioned. It should have been asked, shouldn't it?
Yeah. I just don't feel like I don't feel like the state was trying to expose more than this phone data than they had to. And the defense, for whatever reason, felt like their hands were tied with what they could do with their expert.
Well, the problem with this is you're starting to impugn family, and you're on dangerous ground there, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
You can't say anything against Kelsey, could you?
No.
Although it's quite clear Kelsey had something to explain there. It could be innocent or it might not be. Who knows? But she should have explained it. She should have been asked. Anyway, if we move on.
126.
126, we've got Rayleigh is in the area. 141, 143, we've got Libby sending pictures to Snapchat, or Libby's phone sending pictures to Snapchat. That'll be the ones of her in the car and so on. Although only 4 of the 5 have ever surfaced. We then go into 1351 to 2 o'clock. Now, if you remember that the monochrome photo of the bridge was timed at 2:05, and the walk to the bridge is about 8 minutes. Therefore, to take that photo, they had to leave Mears by 13:57 at very latest, and then no stopping on the way, straight there. This time band begins at 13:51, so yeah, that fits. That gives her 14 minutes to get to the bridge. This says it recorded in 9 minutes. That's close enough again. So it looks good. Then we hit the distance. Mears to the bridge is 531 meters. This phone only traveled 367. So they're nowhere near the bridge at the time when that photograph was taken. Not even if she ran, which she couldn't have done, because then it wouldn't take you 9 minutes to move there, would it? So we're hitting a problem now of the times getting shot. She could not have been in a position to take that first photograph of the bridge. She was way too far back. Can roll it up a bit?
Hold on a second.
There you go. Perfect picture. That is where she was at 2:08.
And this is based on the Apple Health data, correct?
Apple Health data. That's correct. And as you can see, she's just over 12 meters away from where she would have had to be standing to take that photograph. That's about 40 foot. It's a long way away, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's way too much of a distance for the phone to have been inaccurate.
Yep, way too much. But the interesting thing about that position is it's right next to the turnoff onto that other track, which we'll come to later. Yep, that's the one. That's precisely where they were at 8 minutes past.
Hey, Streets. Hey, Andy. Hey, Julie Melvin. Okay, let me pull this back off.
No, we're saying 8 minutes past, aren't we? But that's not when that monochrome photo was taken. The monochrome photo is timed at 5 minutes past. So she was further back when she took that one, somehow. 8 minutes past is the Abby on the bridge photograph, isn't it?
That one is at 2:07.
2:07, yeah.
The 2:08, I believe, is when the phone registered that it was unlocked by the thumbprint for the last time.
That's correct. Thank you for that. Right. So they were standing at that junction 40 foot before getting to the bridge. They were standing there after the time that the monochrome photo was taken and after the time that Abby on the bridge phone is supposed to have been taken. At this point, they should have been just over halfway across the bridge to have done those. But they were 40 foot back from getting to the bridge. Absolutely impossible, isn't it? Even if you gave it a little bit of leeway, yeah, it might be a few feet wrong. It might, even if it's 10 feet wrong, 40 feet wrong, it still doesn't put them in the middle of the bridge. Far too far back, isn't she?
And is there any explanation that would allow for a discrepancy like this in the Apple Health data?
It's a massive discrepancy. I mean, the bridge is how far across?
It's like 800 and I don't know why, 863 feet or
I can't remember that.
Yards. I've got it somewhere. It's long. It's long. It's like 3 foot. I want to say three football fields long.
Hold on a second. I'll just have a quick check and see what it is on my data.
I've got it.
You got it?
Hold on 1 second. Yep. Pull up my file here.
Right. It's 853 feet long.
Okay, I was off by 10 feet.
Naughty you. You're fired.
Yeah.
Right. So half that, 425. Add on the 40 foot short they are. 465 feet. That's how far Apple Health data would have to be out at this moment. I don't think it could ever be that far out, really, could it?
I don't think so.
No.
And
tenth of that.
And just to this point, and just to reiterate, guys, this is research on what access we have to the phone data that's been made available. So because this is significant right here. Before we even get to the video being taken, this is a major discrepancy in the distance the phone traveled. And it can change a lot if this theory is correct. Carry on.
Yeah.
I wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. Well, to deny this, we have to declare the Apple Health data as rubbish. And if we declare it as rubbish, what have we got that proves Abby and Libby were even walking towards the bridge? What have we got that she was on the bridge, apart from one extremely dubious picture, one that could be anything, the monochrome one, and the video? Those are the only things you would have to say they even went to the area without the Apple Health data. So it'd be a very serious thing to write off the Apple Health data, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Especially as up until this point, it was fitting quite well. Now it suddenly decides it's going to be over 400 feet out. Don't believe it. So we now have the girls 40 foot back from the bridge. They've missed the window for taking both the photographs, and they've got 5 minutes to get from 40 foot before the bridge to the end of the south end of the bridge. Worse still, bridge guy. He's got to do all of that in that 5 minutes, plus whatever distance he is behind them. Yeah? So we've not only got the two girls racing over there, we've also got them being chased by Haile Selassie. Because that's the only way they will get there to take the video. Yeah?
Can you elaborate on that segment right there that you just talked about a little bit more, to clarify it a little bit better? Because
we know that Abby and Libby are 40 foot short of the bridge.
So that means they are literally 40 foot back. They are literally damn near level with that left turnoff path.
Yeah.
Before you get to the bridge, because that's roughly 30 to 40 feet before you get to the bridge.
That's correct, yes. In order to get to the south end of the bridge, they've got 5 minutes, haven't they, to do it. And they've got to do the 850 feet bridge plus the 40 foot. They've got to do 900 feet in 5 minutes over that bridge.
And we know that there's a 6 minute window from the time that the Abby Snapchat photo was taken until the time, a little bit over, wait a minute, what is it? A little over 6 minutes of a window from when the Snapchat photo of Abby was taken until the start of the video.
Yep. They've got to be running to do it, haven't they?
I would think so. But
and Bridge Guy has got to be running extremely fast to catch them. And they certainly didn't look like they were running in that photograph of Abby, did they? Or the video of Abby. So this just doesn't pan out either. We're having real problems now with the timing. And we can't dismiss it because to dismiss it means to wipe out the whole case. Yeah. Suddenly we don't have the girls on the bridge, we don't have BG on the bridge, which is a knock-on effect of the two photos must be false and the video must be false. It will completely wipe out the case, wouldn't it? So where do we move on from there? Well, the first thing we do is we have to close our eyes to all that we've seen so far and pretend it never happened and move on. So if you scroll up a bit, right, keep going. I've done this piece. And up a bit further. Right, here we are. So at 7 minutes past 2, the phone was unlocked. Now this is just before they got to that turn-off. Before they got to the 40 foot away from the bridge. She unlocked her phone. She accesses Snapchat and locks it again. Then almost immediately unlocks it again. So one would assume she was taking photos at that time, wouldn't you? And that ties in with the monochrome picture of the bridge, but it does not tie in with where they were standing. That photo could not have been taken at that time. The Apple Health data appears to be saying a photo was taken then. A photo that was impossible to take. Any ideas how that could happen?
Nope.
We cannot write off the Apple Health data or the whole case collapses. If you want to scroll it up a bit more.
Julie, give me 1 second. Julie Melvin wants to hop up here with us. I'm going to let him get through this page and then I'll bring you up.
Right. This part here is where I try to work through trying to get them to the south end of the bridge. Now, the Apple Health data took us from 1408 to 1418, which unfortunately didn't tie in perfectly for 1413. So to get to 1413, I split the times and split the distances equally to get us at 1413.39. So it would give us the right time. However, that gave us 212 meters distance. Okay. Now, when they get there,
does splitting the time affect the rest of the data, though?
No, because the second part takes the other section. I've cut it in half, used half to get to 13, and the other half gets us to the 15. Yeah, the 18. Mm-hmm. So I've literally just cut that in two.
So
okay.
Yes, but at 1418, where does that put them on the bridge? Because the 212 meters, that's 695 feet.
Yeah. Okay, on. Yeah.
So at 1418, where would that? Where are you suggesting that the Apple Health data places them on the bridge?
At 1418, the calculations put them about 177 feet short of the south end.
Okay.
They crossed about, what, 3/4 of the bridge.
Okay.
So that's at 1413. She would be 3/4 of the way across the bridge.
Okay.
So we now have another big problem. She could not have taken that video at 1413. See, everything is starting to collapse. Or the Apple Health data is starting to collapse. There's no reason for the Apple Health data to collapse, is there? So we've got some really serious problems here with the photographs and the video, which just will not fit with what the Apple Health data is saying. So if we roll it up a bit, right, look. All right. So if we now say, okay, say she walked that extra 177 feet, that will get her to the south end of the bridge, but it gets her there at 1417, which is 4 minutes after they're supposed to have been abducted there. So we just cannot place her at the right time to make this video, can we? You following this okay, Amy?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. So we've again got to pretend we didn't notice a problem. And pretend that, yes, she's at the south end of the bridge at 1417, and somehow that video should have been 1417, but it says 1413. Let's pretend we didn't see that. And they are abducted. They're forced down the hill, across the drive, into the woods, and so on. However, Apple Health data has only given a remaining 14-meter distance and 5 minutes in that previous distance for them to do this. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
How long do you think it would take for you to go down that hill, across the drive, through the woods, stop when you see Weber, move along a bit, stand for 18 minutes, and then move on? Would it take you more than 5 minutes?
Well, clearly it would take you longer than 18 minutes.
It would, wouldn't it? Yeah. But as we know from the previous sheet, they stood there for 18 minutes. So we've got another big problem. According to the Apple Health data, if they were at the south end of the bridge where they said when this video says it was taken, they couldn't have made it to the position in the copse where they saw Weber. As I say, it's all falling apart. And that then brings us to what we were discussing earlier on the other sheet, where we saw Ron Logan at 2:09 was there, or Ron Logan's phone, I should say.
That puts Ron Logan right there
Ron Logan.
at the north end of the bridge.
Yes, that distance would put him at the north end of the bridge, yes.
Where the girls were 40 feet away from the bridge.
Correct. And where everything went off-piste. Everything just suddenly went wrong on the distances, the times, everything at that point. According to the Apple Health data, the state story from that point on is a mess. It cannot fit what they're saying is known.
All right, let me hold on a second.
Yes,
Julie, I'm going to drop.
you're right. We are tracking the phone, not necessarily the girls. This is all the
Correct.
phone.
Julie, I just dropped the link for you. Quester, you're familiar with Julie Melvin, correct?
Am I?
Well,
I don't think so, no.
okay. She's been she's related to the Patties.
Oh, right, yeah.
She's Cody's biological mother's sister, I believe.
Got it right.
Yeah, I mean, you guys all know that I have really tried to keep this case on the up and up, but there's just things that the deeper you dig, the more you go in, it becomes very difficult to put the girls where we've always thought the girls were and when.
Yeah. Just a pointer, no, this isn't a smokescreen. This is the data that's produced by the state. And that's the half-truth. That rather is a description of the whole case, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. All Eyes believes that the coordinates in the Ron Logan search warrant put him on the other side of the creek. Which side? The bridge side or his side, All Eyes?
On his side, I believe, yeah.
Is that the 209 or is that the evening pings?
They were both the same distance.
Well, I believe there were three, weren't there? There was the one at 209, then there was one close to 8 p.m., and then there was another one around 10 something.
That's correct, yeah. Yeah,
So
you're right. There were three.
So the one at 209, do those coordinates put him still on his side? Hello, Julie.
Hello. I didn't mean to crash your live. Hello, sir.
Yeah, none of the coordinates would have put them on the south side of the creek.
Okay. What's up? What's up, Julie?
Hi. I forgive me. I hope I'm not spotty. I'm out on a walk getting eaten, carried away by mosquitoes. But I was listening, and thank you. I'm sorry.
Quester.
Okay, Wester?
Yes.
Quester,
okay.
yes.
Quester, hello. Thank you so much for your analysis on this case. It's very, very helpful. I just have a couple maybe questions and statements. One, I want to go back to the phone. And I know, Amy, I've told you this. I've told a few others this. But specifically, I think this would help. Quester could maybe help analyze this. The phone, I'll tell you just something that I spoke specifically to Becky Patty about very early on, about March, maybe into the 1st of April 2017. I was really trying very hard. She was speaking to me at the time. So I called her to ask her about Libby's phone. I wanted to know, what did it look like? What color was it? Was it black with bling bling? Because somebody had mentioned that. And she said to me, now remember, the girls were already found dead. They were already murdered. She said this unequivocally, knowing the truth at the time. I don't think she had any reason to be dishonest with me, deceive me whatsoever at this point. She told me that I said, was her phone black? She says, no, Libby's phone was rose gold. But it doesn't matter. This is her quote. But that doesn't matter anyhow, because Libby's phone had to be reset to factory settings about a week prior. So I gave her one of my phones. Now, according to Michael Alsbrook, there is some sort of proof that there was something that happened with Libby's phone on the 4th of February, I believe. And you can correct me, Amy, because you know more than I do on this. But so that's just something that's floating out there. She knew at the time, because she either had Libby's phone at home or what have you. She knew that Libby's original phone that was linked to her that she didn't have it. So she gave her one of her phones. And it sounds to me like it was reset. Or her phone, all the stuff was starting to be uploaded to this phone that Becky gave Libby on February 4th. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
I do believe that I want to say the majority of us did believe that we were expecting Libby's phone to be a rose gold phone, and it was not.
And that's what I was told. I mean, it was very strongly, because I'm like, are you sure it wasn't? But no, it was rose gold. But these are her quotes. No, Libby's phone was rose gold, but that doesn't matter anyway, because she didn't have her phone with her out there that day. Hers had to be reset to factory settings about a week prior. So I gave her one of my phones. And I want to add something to this. MS, their best friend that they wanted to go with them, I can just say it, Max. Max told me that some kids where their parents were stricter with phones, that they would go to Walmart, and it was very common, they'd go to Walmart and buy a burner phone so that they could have a phone like everyone else without their parents knowing. So I just
Yeah,
wanted to
that's
put
common.
that out there.
A lot of kids do that, yeah.
And then the crossing the bridge, I hadn't heard of this analysis, and I thought 5 minutes. I'm very athletic. I can, I used to run like many marathons and stuff like that, and obviously I'm out walking my 7 mile walk today. I went across that bridge and I filmed it, and I was booking, and I'm not afraid of heights. I just got to watch my step. It's scary when you go across that bridge, but I did it as fast as I could do it. And I felt like I was really booking along because I left Doug Rice behind me. And I timed it, and it was exactly 5 minutes. And that is booking. That's a cadence where I am on, going as fast as I can. I'm keeping up my cadence. I'm keeping up a fast pace. So there's no way that I believe that these girls were over there in 5 minutes, especially if you look at the way that Abby's walking across the bridge with Libby's video, the way she's like, and she's being very careful. And I will tell you, that's the easiest part to cross, is there at the end. It's like a piece of cake compared to the rest of it. So slow that cadence down across the rest of it, and then calculate approximately how long it would have taken. Not okay. We know that Libby was ahead, but Libby's not going to leave her friend high and dry back there, with those huge gaps of sometimes 3 feet. She's going to kind of help her along. And as we could see, she stood over at the side of the platform, turned back, and took that picture of Abby. So she wasn't that far ahead of her. So if you calculate that cadence of what she was going across, you could probably figure out approximately what would be the likelihood. And then the last thing I want to say before I get off here is, I didn't have this at the time. I'm just going to say, I don't care. I found my conversation with Brad Weber. And this is something very, very important for you, Quester. I found my conversation with Brad Weber. I know what his mother had told me about the time that he got home. My conversation, I have it right there in text message. He said, and he volunteered this. This is back in end of 2017, early 2018. He said, I got home between 2:45 and 3 p.m. The state is putting him home at 2:20, and that allegedly Richard Allen saw this white van at 2:20, and then the whole thing was over by a certain time. If you go forward to 2:45 to 3 o'clock, that changes the entire prosecution narrative of how this went down. So
Agreed.
I just wanted to add that. So I wanted to say, I'm going to keep listening. I'm just going to get off here, and I'm going to let you guys mull over that, unless you have a question for me real quick.
No, that's brilliant. I agree with just about everything you said. I'll tell you now that I don't doubt Becky's information very much. I think she's been fairly straight.
Yeah, well, for the most part.
The rest, I reserve judgment. Okay?
Mhm.
Yeah, the rest of the family, I mean. But Becky,
yeah.
I'm pretty much on side with. Yeah?
Yes. There's a lot of things, you know. That's I think I was tried. They tried to stop me. I was like Amy, except I wasn't really, doing YouTube videos. Except I couldn't upload them to Facebook to try to help people, so I had to do it on YouTube. But I'm like I have questions. Like this has got to make sense. I need to find this person. So like Amy's further away, but obviously I had the advantage of knowing growing up with Becky and the family. My sister used to be married to Becky's uh, half brother, all that sort of thing. So I knew all that stuff. But they try to stop you. And when they try to stop you, you're like, wait a minute, do they not want to solve this case? Why would they try to stop me? I'm not pointing the finger to anybody. I've never ever said I knew who did this. I just was doing crime scene 101, which is what I thought I was doing. You start from the inside and you find out, you get to know the victim, and then you find out who they were connected with, who they were surrounded by, who was coming to the house, where were they going with maybe one of their little, their cousins or whatever. Who, Garrett Kurtz, for instance, Libby being with Michaela around Garrett Kurtz, and we now know that he's a murderer. There's probably some kind of trending stuff going on even before that. So those are the things that I got ridiculed for, and they tried to basically put a head. They put a I don't know, death threats out there for me. So now Amy's doing an amazing job, and thank you, Amy. Keep carrying this on,
Thank
and
you.
I'll help any way that I
Lester has
can.
literally just blown us all away. So I appreciate him 1,000,000%.
Yeah,
But
thank you so much.
I'll send you a message here in a little bit, Julie.
Okay, I'm gonna get off here. I'm gonna keep listening. Thank you guys so much for everything you're doing.
All right.
Thank you. All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Julie. That actually confirms a lot of the things that I'd heard. So, as I say, thank you.
All right, let me pull this back up. Okay, so we are now, we were talking about Ron Logan and his pings at 209.
Yes. Well, Ron Logan's phone. Got to be careful with that. It's very easy to slip into the person, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yes, we've got Ron Logan's phone 3 times in the places where they're highly suspicious.
Correct.
Twice near the crime scene, and once, I can't be certain, but I would say it was on the track that leads from the north end of the bridge to the cemetery. And all 3 of those are important little places.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So where were we?
Down here at 213, this is an interesting section for me. So dive in.
At 213. Where were we? Can you put that up on the screen?
Is it not showing on the screen? Oh, hold on.
No.
I thought I had it up on the screen. Sorry. Is it there now?
There she is, yes.
Okay. Right here that I have highlighted.
Right. This is recording when they checked and researched into the phone. They found 5 photographs on her phone. This is not including the ones that have been assigned to the bridge. These would be the ones that would be when she was at Mears, or if she took some on the walk towards the bridge. Now, they've not shown these photos, but they've said that in 4, there's a man behind Abby.
Who has said that? I have never heard that.
Yep, that's what was said. Bunner.
Bunner said that?
Yes.
Is this from his testimony in October?
Let's see if I can just pull up when he said it. I believe it's in his report, which would have been put up in trial.
And he said there were 4 photos with a man behind Abby.
Right. But I've got it clear here. He said there were 5 photos found. 2 were in the car. 3 were walking to the bridge. Now this is the odd bit. 4 had a man behind Abby.
But if there were 5 photos and there were 2 that were in the car, that only leaves 3. How were there 4?
Good question. Somebody's maths isn't very good, is it?
No.
And he also said he couldn't find one. Although he was not aware of any deleted photos. So it's a bit of a mess there, isn't it?
It's a freaking mess.
Yeah. And I would have thought if they had photographs of a man walking behind Abby going towards her, they would have produced those, wouldn't they? That would have been some pretty tough evidence to get round.
Well, yeah, because we've been stuck with this shitty picture of Bridge Guy for all these years, and then we get the BG video, and it looks like it was taken in high definition.
Yeah. And now we hear that there's 4 other photographs of him.
I've never heard that. I want to see. I want you to send that to me. I want you to. We need to. That was at trial, or was that at a prior hearing?
I'll have to dig it out, but it's in his report. I'm pretty certain it is. It was Cecil that found. Cecil managed to find 4 of them, and he's the one who couldn't find one of them. So again, they're arguing with each other.
Okay. All right. So now we are 2/13/51.
Right. Here we go on the video. This. You think you've heard some stories? Wow. Right. This is where, to read out, the GPS data generated by Libby's phone geolocated near the Delphi High School. After approximately 4 seconds, it geolocated back to the trail. In trial, Cecil changed that to back to Memorial Park. Now, I'd love to know how on earth it could do that. I can't think of any way it can. Apart from the TARDIS, of course. Eldridge was the one who focused on the Apple Health data, and she agreed with the timestamps and the GPS locations. So finally we get the 2 of them agreeing on something, but it's something that is absolutely bizarre. And I would say impossible. If somebody knows how that can happen, do tell us, please. You got any ideas, Amy?
How far is Memorial Park?
I would say it's about 3/4 of the distance that the high school is. Maybe a bit more. There's not a lot in it. If you drew a line from the bridge to either of them, there would be a lot in the distance. Different.
So you're talking about the Abby and Libby Memorial Park, correct? Which
is there another one? Another memorial park?
I don't think so. 1 mile.
Yeah, about that, I'd say, yeah.
It's at the intersection of State Road 25 and the State Road 218 West. But at that time, it wasn't a memorial park for them.
No, it wasn't.
However, we do have Mike Patty discussing the softball memorial park being built only 3 weeks after the girls were dead.
Yeah. But I don't think the important thing is whether it's Memorial Park or the high school. The point is, it was in Delphi, not at the bridge. Yeah?
Right.
Whichever he wants to say, it was not at the bridge. And after 4 seconds, it suddenly was at the bridge. But somebody please tell me how it can do that. An answer there was none. Unsurprising. Satellite line of sight is poor. Could, yeah. If it was going via satellite, yeah. The problem with the satellite could explain the difference in which location he wanted to say it was, but it would not explain how it was in Delphi and then 4 seconds later moved over to the bridge.
I can't see chat with this up, so I'm sorry, guys. I can't.
Nobody's said any way that could have happened, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah. So now we're on to the video. So
Right. But the video, well, that's a different question to all this. What the video actually was. The only thing is the timing, as we said, it just doesn't work out. So we're left with a situation where it really doesn't look like they could have crossed the bridge, does it?
I mean, to a certain degree. I mean, if you follow the health data to an absolute T, I mean, I can agree with all of this. However, I'm somebody who I would love to go out there myself and do some sort of
do the walk,
measuring and walking and videotaping and mapping it all out in real time and in person, But I mean, you're stuck with what we've got here. And if it's not adding up, and if people disagree, please, we'll discuss it. Show us the error of the way of the phone data.
Somebody can show us how that phone data can tally with the state story. Fine, I'm listening.
So at one point, the phone points up and there's no one visible behind Abby. I do believe I've seen that. But it happens so fast, you almost have to second guess yourself, because then he's there.
Yeah, that looks as if it's just for a fleeting second or two, he's hidden by Abby.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I'd question about that is that means he must have been walking right on the edge of the bridge, inches away from falling over.
Yeah, he would have had to been clear. Yeah, he would have had to been clear to the right.
Yeah, right over there.
Our left, his right.
Almost tightrope walking on the edge. So that would have happened. And he's got his hands in his pockets. It's a brave man.
And then at 2:14:41, the unsuccessful attempt to unlock Libby's phone. Which, I mean, with the thumb ID on your phone, I mean, that's usually not, you don't normally get a failed attempt at that. Now, a face recognition, sometimes, depending on the lighting or the angle of the phone, but your thumb, I mean, when you imprint on your phone, your thumbprint or your finger, whichever one that you use, I mean, it's usually almost instantaneously your phone unlocks when you touch it with your finger.
It can go wrong if, say, your thumb's particularly sweaty or dirty or something like
that. Yeah, then in that case, yes. But I did, one of the things that I think everyone thought that Libby was hiding the phone, but the sweatshirt that Abby has on that she was found in does not appear to have pockets. So it's not as if Libby, after taking the video of Abby on the bridge, could have then swooped down and, put her hands in her. Normally some sweatshirts have a front pocket. That sweatshirt did not have a front pocket. So I'm assuming that that phone would have had to have gone into her jeans to have hidden the phone. And I just can't imagine a man abducting two girls, and if she didn't hide the phone, she's carrying the phone in her hand, he just let her keep it.
Well, not only that, at 2:14, she'd already taken the video. So is she taking it out to use it again? Why would she be trying to unlock it if she's put it in her pocket?
Right.
And yes, he should have seen that phone, and we're back to the sledgehammer. As soon as you see the person got a phone, you destroy it. You wouldn't take a chance. And here on in, we're moving into what we addressed earlier.
That's the 7 minutes of no distance. But they don't, so we're not seeing, do we see a distance traveled from the south end of the bridge down the hill? Or do we immediately go to 7 minutes of non-movement? I always thought this case is so massive, sometimes I can't keep it straight in my head, but I did think that at some point we thought that there was movement down the hill to the private drive area, and it was down in that area where the 7 minute of non-movement happened.
Yeah, if you scroll down a bit, you'll see it. There we are. Ooh.
Here?
I think you've gone past. Back up a little bit. Ooh. Right, in the centre there, it's talking about Webber's van. So that's where the stop was, between 1418 and 1425. And Cecil decided it was at 218. So during the whole of 218 to 225, they were standing still, watching Webber's van.
I can't. Huh. Yeah, right there.
Maybe it's a very nice van.
And you know what? And Weber must have been in a really good mood that day because he didn't slam on the brakes and get out of his car and go batshit crazy on him for being on his property.
Yeah, that was a break in his normal behaviour, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Normally, he would have waved a gun at them and kidnapped them.
Held them hostage.
Allegedly. Allegedly.
Yeah. Okay, so that puts us, now we are standing on the private drive for 7 minutes?
No, 7 minutes standing in the middle of the copse.
In the middle of the what?
For the woodland area, south
Before
of the creek.
Okay.
Yeah, the bit in between the creek, the bridge, and the drive.
Okay.
Do you recall the picture you had of where was it a belt?
Mm-hmm.
Not a belt. Yeah, standing about there.
Yeah. Hold on, I can pull it up.
Wide open.
And I mean, and in this picture, you can absolutely, let me see.
There we go. Whoops, back a bit. That's it. That would have been about there.
So, look at this view.
It's lovely. You can see everything around, can't you?
Mm-hmm. Anybody on the bridge, and even anybody on the north end of the bridge who was, I mean, there you've got supposedly 3 people standing right down here.
Yep, you've got people standing on the bridge, all sorts of things. Yeah. Easily see down there, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
And they stood for 7 minutes there.
Yep, the good old belt that was never tested.
Which then brings us to the question of, did they cross the bridge? Did all this happen? Because Apple Health data doesn't seem to support it. But if they didn't,
well, you know that there's going to be people who adamantly believe that they did. I know there's people who adamantly believe they didn't. That is why I've tried very hard to not align myself with any theory, because I mean, even up to this point, you know, I'm still questioning things that we've discussed just based on the information that we've had access to, and having to rely on, you know, second and third hand information from recaps from trial. Once we get these trial transcripts, we're going to go back through those and pin down exactly what was said. And that doesn't mean that what was said is actually the truth, but it does lock the people in who testified to what they said.
yes, I agree. But all we can do at the moment is apply the information we've got, which this is doing. If it turns out that this information is wrong, then at that time we can then reapply. But at the moment, we have to just follow the information, don't we?
Yeah. That's all that we can do. And it seems completely engineered by the state, forcing us to do it this way because they're not confident in their case. They don't want us to have certain information. They don't want us to have, I would love to get my hands on all of the exhibits that are still filed as confidential with the Franks motion, all of those depositions and all of those statements that were filed with that document, because it's just stuff that we should have.
There's a lot of stuff missing, and a lot of it looks purposeful.
It is purposeful. Okay, we can carry on.
Right. So this information says to us that there are serious questions on them crossing the bridge. Now, as you said earlier, I'm not saying that means they didn't. And I'm not saying they did, but I'm just saying there are very, very serious questions on that. So what else could they have done? Well, the logical one is, where were they standing at 2:08? At the junction. So shall we have a look at that theory? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to put up the sheet on that one, Amy?
Yeah, is that different than this one? Hold on.
It is a different one, yes.
Hold on. Okay, let me pull it. Okay, 1 second. Just gets me, I had to close out a bunch of windows. Okay, can you see it?
I can't anymore. It's gone.
Is it there now?
No.
Okay. Should be there now.
There it is. Perfect. Right. Now, as I was saying, we're having problems with crossing the bridge. So let's go back to the point that we do know everything was still working until, and that was that junction where you turn off. Now that first drawing harkens back to when we showed you all the known trails. Now what I've done here is I've picked out a few of those trails that are on the north side of the creek.
So guys, if you, real quick, I believe if you go either to my Facebook group or to Twitter, and I might have even posted this on my community page, we posted a map that showed all of the trails known to locals, people who were unfamiliar with the trails, just all the different types of trails that could be traveled based on who knew that they were there. So there is a map out there that has way more trail paths on it than this one, but this is aligning with the Apple data. Go ahead, Quester.
Thanks. Right, we know that at 2:08 they were at the junction with this trail. What if they turned and went up there? Would that fit with the Apple data? Well, we've still got the situation of she was accessing Snapchat and taking photographs. That could be those photographs that Cecil and Bunner were talking about, couldn't it? The 4, the 3, the 2, the one that's missing, etc., etc., possibly. But if we move on from that, we've now got the phone. Oh, I'll say Libby. We've got Libby now moving up this trail. The trail, as you can see, ends in two places. You have two choices. One goes down to where the crime scene was, and the other branch goes up to the cemetery. Can you roll it up a bit? Now the thing is to check the distances. Now I checked both of them, and the only one that fitted absolutely perfect is this one. As you can see, it's 414 meters, and Apple Health data recorded 414 meter distance movement. A smack on the button, that is. It said it took them 10 minutes, and that is approximately a 10-minute walk. So again, it's still fitting. So it would fit if they decided to walk to the base of the cemetery. Of course, what happens at the cemetery is another thing. And this brings us into the other phones that we've got here. Ron Logan's. One of those phone locations works out to it could have been right next to that track. We've then got the things like the unsuccessful attempt to unlock the phone. Who knows why? But when they get to, in this scenario, when they get to the cemetery, Apple Health data stops reporting movement, indicating for some reason they stopped that, obviously. And they were there then, standing still for 7 minutes. What they were doing, we don't know, if they were there. We then have the point at which the Apple Health data stops reporting movement. And interestingly, it is on this journey that we have the 2 flights of stairs reported. Have you got a picture of the climb up to the cemetery, Amy?
A picture of the what, I'm sorry?
Of going up towards the cemetery from the creek.
I have the, from the creek, I have a video of the ravine.
That will do if you've got it.
I do. And I also have the video from the cemetery to the crime scene. One would you like?
The first one, I think.
Okay.
Because we're looking for a reason for the Apple Health data to register about a 20-foot ascension.
Well, see, then I think that we should pull the one from the cemetery, because they would be coming from the north end of the bridge. They wouldn't go down that ravine to the crime scene area. This would then be walking them around to the base of the cemetery. So if we play the one from the cemetery, it would just be the view. Instead of walking up to the cemetery, you'd be coming from the cemetery, and we can see if there's a decline there. Or
That's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Or we can do both. They're not very long. This is from the base of the cemetery. So how many meters do we have after this this 20-foot incline?
If you're walking towards the bridge, 414 meters in total.
So if we're approaching a downward hill on this path right here, they would be, this is reverse, them coming towards the cemetery, so that would be an uphill climb. There's how many meters after the uphill?
They'd be coming up 20 feet.
And then after that, how many meters?
I haven't measured that, but it wouldn't be a lot.
Because we haven't come to an incline yet. Unless it's right here.
There's a fair incline on the right, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
This is the route to where?
The cemetery. This person is traveling from the cemetery to the crime scene.
Oh, right, yep.
So he's traveling downward here, but they wouldn't have been coming from that way. Well, I don't know. Look at that.
That's a fair incline, isn't it?
It is.
Would you say 20 foot?
I mean, I would say, it's not a straight up. Here, but see, the other video doesn't work, because if they travel down that path from the north end of the bridge towards the cemetery, if they traveled down into that ravine, that would have been a downward incline that the phone more than likely wouldn't have registered.
It probably wouldn't have registered going down.
No,
but coming up.
Yes, let me see here.
Right. On this sheet, it says about 50 meters, which would about fit that when you turned round.
And then this is the ravine.
No, they wouldn't be in the ravine.
To the right. No, they wouldn't. But their bodies were found to the right of this ravine. And there was also a cell phone found right to the right of this ravine.
If they'd have walked down to the ravine, they wouldn't have been going back up. Yeah.
Right. But the other video, depending on if they've, I don't know how that tracks across the top of that ridge line up there where that path goes to the cemetery. But that one incline that we saw could have been
The 20-footer, yeah.
the 20-foot, yeah.
That would fit for going up to there, yeah. So far, it's all in line with the possibility.
Correct. And next time I go there, I am going to walk that path, every variation of it, and video it. Okay, so here we are, back where we were, trekking up to the cemetery, to the base of the cemetery.
Right. And once we're there, there's very little movement. It's sort of the sort of things you do if you're just wandering around and so on. You're not really going anywhere according to these movements. And then suddenly it just stops. Now, carrying on the theory, one could theorize that at that point, into a car. Now, going back to a Faraday cage, some cars can act like a Faraday cage. The one thing you carry on a car, a toolbox, metal toolbox, that is a Faraday cage. So there would be many opportunities to knock out the phone. You could even take the SIM out. That's even easier.
And I believe coming up, I have, well, not today, but I have another map where I mapped out, I believe, from, if you walk out Ron Logan's front door to the road to 300 North, and you walk towards the cemetery, there's I believe it's 900 feet difference. That's the spread between the cemetery, the front of the cemetery to the front of Ron Logan's house. So I can only assume the back of the cemetery to Ron Logan's backyard to his barns would be about 900 feet.
It would be about that, yeah. But if the phone was incapacitated at that point, it wouldn't register.
Correct.
So that theory does work, but of course, as I say, it's only a theory. There is less wrong with that theory than there is with crossing the bridge.
That's incredible.
Isn't it?
It's incredible.
I'm by no means saying that is what happened, but I'm just pointing out that is an option that does work. Whereas what we're being told, crossing the bridge, crossing the creek, etc., does not. And again, it's make of that what you will. Until we get more detail and more data, that's what we have to face.
And to kind of go along with this portion of a theory, we were going to do it today, but we had way too much data to go over. So we'll probably do it in episode 13, but we have someone who's coming on to discuss the terrain and how where the girls were found would have been not only something that would have been used as sort of a kettle, which is what hunters use when they're practice targeting shooting, which could explain why there would be quite a few shell casings or bullet casings in that area, but also the drainage from the top of that plateau up there by the cemetery, with it being, February and snowing, the water draining down towards the creek and saturating that bowl area where the girls would found, which could also play a part as into why the clothing was wet on Libby. On Abby, if she was laying in a saturated area.
There's also the issue of the the creek itself and the likelihood or impossibility of crossing that creek, isn't there?
Yes, and we're going to get into that because I know there's a lot of complex. Well, first of all, law enforcement never measured the creek to know how deep it was on the 13th. We do know just based on footage, and we can go back through, look at reports, and gauge different areas of the creek. But it's coming down to Abby would have had a very difficult time crossing the creek with the water level and the flow of the water at that time.
I think Alan would have as well. The heart problems and weight and his height.
And boots and sinking into the mud, and Abby's shoes were nowhere near what you would expect crossing, even if the creek was 2 feet deep.
She'd have been slipping.
Her shoes would have been literally caked with mud. Like her shoes would have sunk down into the water. Then that goes back to, well, were they forced to undress before they crossed and they had to cross nude? Well, by that point in time, we know damn well that there were people on the bridge who would have seen that 2 naked girls were being chased across the creek and having to carry their clothes.
Yeah. There's still a lot that's open to question, isn't there?
There is a lot to question, yes. Okay, so we are at the end of, go ahead.
I think that about covers it, doesn't it?
It does. I think so. I mean, other than these, real quick, I wanted you to talk about, because we had talked about the timing of the steps and the distance, and how the steps exceed the distance moved, and how that can be articulated in the data as far as is it so far off that it can't be calculated as just Apple Health data, articulating it wrong because of the terrain that they were traveling, or is it off by a lot that the steps just far outweigh the distance traveled?
Well, the problem is, steps wise, some appear very close to what it would be, and some are so far out it's hilarious. But as you know, Apple Health data doesn't record actual steps. It calculates them, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it says, it's not a true step. It's just what it perceives it to be. So we can't really rely on that. It's just not reliable, the steps, in any way. If we go down the line of the steps, we really are all over the place. It destroys absolutely every single theory possible. Couldn't have crossed the bridge, couldn't have gone up to the cemetery. So many things, you just couldn't have done any of it by the steps. I think you'll get in a nightmare if you try and follow what the steps say.
Okay. Well, guys, I hope that we've given you more to think about, and please feel free to come back and say, hey, I see it this way. Can we discuss it? I would really like to do at some point is maybe do a Facebook group live for the Facebook group, to just kind of bat around the ideas and answer questions, and anybody who's got ulterior theories that align with some of this phone data, what maybe you're seeing something that we don't, or that Quester does. He's far more knowledgeable about this stuff than I am. So I'm just as engaged in all of this as you guys are. So do not hesitate. Just be respectful about it. That's all I ask. So next week, we are going to have, I for sure will have a guest on next week. And we will go into the terrain and probably discuss that. And how about a review of the last like 3 or 4 vault episodes that we've done, Quester?
Yes, that's fine. I can make myself available.
Okay, and I'm compiling. I'm compiling all of this data about the water levels and all of that. Oh, I know what I wanted to do really quick before we get off here. Someone sent this to me. Everybody in chat really quick before I have something I want to play for you guys, but really quick, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. That really helps. It's free, and there's so many hours that go into putting all of this together. I don't think that you guys really understand behind the scenes how much work goes into all of this. And as always, I will share the work, and once I share it, you are free to do with it what you please. Share it, screenshot it. I'm fine with that. So if you've hit that like button and that subscribe button, I'm going to go over here and play this really quick. I thought it was interesting. Someone sent it to me. Hang on a second. Where did it go? Did I not pull it in? Somebody sent me, and it's only of Down the Hill, but it's an amazing voice enhancement of the bridge guy and his voice. Give me 1 second. Let me find it here. Where did it go? Remember when I had to fix the audio at the beginning before we went live, and I had to re-upload everything?
Yeah.
It must have popped it out. Darn it, where did it go? Oh, and by the way, I'm sure a lot of you have already listened to it. I'm starting to upload the audio from the locals who were in the meeting that Julie recorded. A lot of good details in there about the witnesses, the sketches, Daniel Pearson, and the McCains. Oh, here we go. Found it. All right, guys. This is a
guys.
Now, this voice sounds like a much younger person to me. And you almost hear him say, "Go down the hill. Guys, go down the hill." That's what I hear.
Guys. 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 Guys.
Had you heard that before, Quester?
It did sound like it. And it's definitely sounded like a younger voice, didn't it?
It did, and it sounds like, it almost sounds like it's inside, except you do hear the crunching of the leaves. But yeah, Candy, I heard go down the hill. Like it was almost like, duh, you know what you were told to do, guys, go down the hill.
Guys. Guys.
Makes you wonder what that part right at the start is, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, the guys, the voice guys, every time I hear just that, I go straight to Garrett Kurtz, because I've listened to hours and hours of his interrogation, and he has some sort of a lisp. Like he talks with his, like he's pressing, he talks with like his cheeks or something. It's weird, but he's got a funny little lisp. And the guys is not, don't get that guh. It's like somebody who has a speech impediment with G's and K's.
Guys. Guys.
All right, guys. I will share that on my community page. It's not my video. Someone was nice enough to send it to me. So I want to thank you for sending. I don't want to say your name out loud, but Tamara says that audio is not the BG audio. Well, it was audio that's enhanced, supposedly. Charlie Murphy, yes, clear. That's who wrote, that's whose video it is. So, well, guys, we've been on here for quite some time, and stay tuned. We'll be back next week with episode 13. If you are in the replay crew, please hit the like and subscribe, and we will do our best to answer questions. So leave them if you've got them. Anything that you want to add before we go, Quester?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I want to thank you for your amazing work and helping me understand all of this stuff, because it's a lot to take in, and usually I need to study something for hours upon hours, and you seem to absorb it and remember it right away. So you do amazing work, and I appreciate you tremendously, and I'm sure everybody who's listening today appreciates what you have been doing on the channel.
You're more than welcome.
Good. All right, guys, we will see you next time. See you later. Have a good Monday evening.
Sure, guys.